Welcome back. This is John with Datsifact Narrative Writing. In this video we will be drafting the Air Mater story. If you're wondering how you got here, you can click on this link right here. It'll take you back to the previous video in which we watched the Air Mater video and we filled out a datsifact template of the datsifact elements from that video. And then rewatch it and come back here. And in this video we're going to take those datsifact elements and I'm going to show you how I weave a story from a datsifact template. So the previous video is going to be the brainstorming, and then this video will be writing. Okay, all right, so let's get to it. Okay, just to remind you, we are looking at this from a writing prompt perspective. So our prompt for this story involving Mater is write about a time when you were excited. We've already got all of our elements really for the writing from the datsifact template, which looks like this. And again, see the other video, the previous video in which we datsifact for the datsifact elements, if you want to know where this came from. But basically, this is our template. This is all the information we're going to use to write our story. Okay, and so I'll go ahead and I'll show you this. This is the, there are two documents that I've pulled up right here. On the left, we have the beginning of our first draft, and that first draft is comprised only of dialogue and action. Because as I'm teaching datsifact, I want students to understand that most stories are just based on the character's actions and what they say. Now it is color-coded for the datsifact elements, something I can do for my students, but I don't always do. And then if you look over here on the right, now these are just the elements, the datsifact elements in the datsifact template, but what I've done is I've kind of switched it around. I color-coded them to make it a little bit easier for you to see once we put them into the story, as well as I went on ahead and put them in a form that makes it flow into the writing. It's not in the shorthand form like it is in the template. I put them in complete sentences, and you'll see how they flow right into the sentences once we start placing them into the first draft. Okay, all right, so let's get going. The first thing we'll be doing is putting in thoughts and feelings. Our first thought is those falcon hawks are cool, Mater thought. Now that's a thought he had after the first time that he saw them. It's gonna go right after this. Whoa, Mater said the falcon hawk. So I'm gonna go ahead and put those falcon hawks are cool, Mater thought, and I had an extra period because I've already done this. Okay, all right, so the second thing I've done, I can't wait for the air show, he thought. He says this after they ask him if you're going to the air show, which is down in this area. We're going to put it right here after he says that it's awesome. Okay, there it is. I can't wait for the air show, he thought. And the last thought or feeling, this is the feeling actually. His eyes got big and he gasped. He was excited. He actually did that just before he thought that they were cool. So I'll put it right there. I'll take that. It looks a lot like that. Okay, all right, so what we've added is the thoughts and feelings. His eyes got big and he gasped. He was excited. Those falcon hawks are cool, Mater thought. And then farther on down lower, I can't wait for the air show, he thought, after they asked him if he was coming. Okay, next thing we got to look at is the setting. Now the first element of the setting, we have two of them. The first one is in which Mater's kind of driving down the road and all that stuff. What I'm going to do is I often put it in its own paragraph. So we're going to start a new paragraph. We're going to start at the end of this first part. It's going to go a lot like that. So we're going to put it right there. After we introduce the story with a little bit of actions and dialogue, then we're going to describe where everything is, and then he's going to do another action and some more dialogue. Okay, the next setting is describing Skipper's flight school. So I'm going to actually come down here. It says that he noticed a sign across the street and headed over for a closer look. Then he read the sign. I'm actually going to describe it after he noticed the sign and he headed over. So again, I'm going to stop at the end of that line. That makes this a new paragraph. All right, so I described Skipper's flight school right after he headed over to closer look. Next thing we have is imagery. This is a bell dinged, and that's what happens when he pulled into the auto shop. So I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to change this to as he pulled into an auto shop. And then made or heard the boom of the Falcon Hawk jet engines overhead. Again, I'm sorry, yellow doesn't show up very well, but you know, it is what it is. It's right here. Just then, 4 Falcon Hawk jets flew really close to the ground and spread out. So I'm going to put it right here. Just then, made or heard the boom of, I'm going to change this a little bit, of jet engines overhead, and change this as 4 Falcon Hawk jets flew really close to the ground. So the sentence now reads, just then made or heard the boom of jet engines overhead as 4 Falcon Hawk jets flew really close to the ground and spread out. Okay, so we have a couple of sounds, the bell dinging, the boom of the jet engines. Okay, next we're going to move on to figurative language. First one is, what I'm going to do is it sounded like a cannon going off, and that describes the sound of the Falcon Hawk jet engine, so I'm going to put it right here. That means with the whoa, with the whoa, I'm going to start a new paragraph right there. And the next thing after that is the boom of was a volcano eruption. Again, that's the sound of the jet engines. That's the metaphor. We're going to put it right after the simile. It's kind of weird, but it's okay. We're going to move up to this top one. The flight school sat there with its mouth wide open for anyone to enter. And that's just going to be a continuation of the setting. Okay, all right, so let's move on to adverbs and adjectives. First thing we're looking at is the plane said hello nicely. That's at the very beginning. So I'm going to go up. Said planes to him nicely as he passed. Back over here to the right. The planes landed softly. That's the Falcon Hawk jets. It's going to happen right here. And then Mater rushed across the street quickly. Sorry, he crossed the street quickly. And that's a word choice thing. I'm going to do rushed. And a rushed comes after he notices the sign. Instead of him heading over, I'm going to replace it with rushed over for a closer look. Okay, so the adverbs are done. Move on to the adjectives. The blue car that was broken down is the one that Mater was towing. So that's at the very beginning. Now I'm going to replace car right here with, he pulled a blue car that was broken down behind him as he went. All right, the white picket fence describes some of the houses. So I'm going to put it right here. Some of the houses had trees in their yards. White picket fences and trees in their yards. And we describe the yards as being small. So I'm going to put in the trees in their small yards. See? Not that hard. Okay, last part. We are looking at characterization of Mater. I'm going to put that. We're looking at the characterization of Mater. Put that right here after we first describe him. Mater, a friendly orange and rust-colored tow truck with 2 large buck teeth, drove down the road. Okay. The Falcon Hawk jets. Jets with red bodies. It's going to be sometime after we meet them. Looking for a good place for it. And it's going to go right here. Why, thank you, said one of the Falcon Hawks. The Falcon Hawks were jets with red bodies and blue tops, known as being the best because of their speed and mobility. Okay, and all right, and it looks a lot like this when it's done. I'll stop it here. I'll let you read it if you want to, if it's not too small for you. or you can go and you can download it from the datsifact website, www.datsifactwriting.com. Okay, and that is how you draft a story from a datsifact template. In the previous video, we brainstormed a story for the datsifact elements, and then in this video, we took those elements from the datsifact template and we weaved our story. Hopefully you understood it. It wasn't too difficult. It's kind of what your brain does as you write, especially if you take the time to stop and really think about writing in terms of the datsifact elements and how a published author would use those elements as they write, which really is what I want students to get to. You know, towards the end of the first year of them practicing, students no longer fill out a datsifact template when they write. They actually just start drafting, and hopefully they're going to start incorporating that in their writing. That's really what we want students to do. We don't want them to have to brainstorm it and put the datsifact elements on a template. We hope that they start incorporating them in their everyday writing, and that shows that they're becoming much more successful writers. Now, if you're interested in learning or knowing more about datsifact, you can click on the link right there. That'll take you to the datsifact channel. There's also a link down in the description below. And also you'll find in the description, of course, a link to the datsifact website, as well as Facebook and the other sites down there. Okay, all right, so please like the video or leave a comment below. We'll try to respond. Thanks again, and as long as you keep up with it and you put forth the effort, you really can become a successful writer. So thank you very much. Goodbye.